Mr. DeVille.
Well, his timeline would be to accept the certificate of necessity tonight, set a public hearing 30 days from now, which would be 2 meetings from now, and go from there.
Anybody else? Mr. Mitchell?
There's no way tonight to allow this operator to operate until the public hearing. Is there nothing we can do?
Not without jeopardy of placing you under a very quick lawsuit that you probably lose.
Thank you.
Mr. Purkeypile.
Okay, so what I heard you say, Mr. Weaver, was that even if an ordinance was somehow inadvertently or intentionally taken out, as long as the city clerk has it filed, it's still in force?
State law says that a codification is only a beneficial tool for interpreting the actual statutes or actual ordinances. That they are the law, not the codification. So if something's left out or something's miscodified, whether it's on the state statutes or whether it's on our local books, the actual law goes back to what is been passed in the ordinance. And so yes, what if our book is not going to jive with the actual ordinances that are recorded, the ordinances control.
Okay, so the question arises, if you have two ordinances with the same number, what do you do then?
Numbers are not considered a part of the ordinance body itself. The ordinance body itself you could very well have ordinance number 99 and ordinance number 99, and they say two different things. The law is what's contained below the number and actually below the title. The title is superfluous to the statute itself.
Okay. So I'm going to ask a couple more questions about it because I'm trying to drill down, as they say. So if it's determined that city clerk has this is there some special place that we have all ancient ordinances?
There's an index. MJ has an index of all the ordinances back to 18,
Miss Sell does?
whatever. Mm-hmm.
Is it not here in the?
It's in the
I don't know.
clerk's
Is
office.
it here?
It's-
I don't know. She
It's
read
in
it
the
to me
clerk's
over
office.
the phone. I don't know where else it exists.
Okay. Well, so we need to have that clarified certainly before we, and you mentioned that you're going to kind of do that research. My last question about this is, so we find that there is a taxi franchise. Does that preclude having another taxi franchise? Can
No.
you have two? Can you have one? Can you have three?
As many as you said.
If you find there's a necessity, you can expand the number of franchises. You could expand the number of cable franchises if you find there's truly a necessity.
Okay,
or any other franchise.
We've dodged necessity. In my mind, necessity is a demand. And I see, and I'm going to ask this of Cody, Mr. Stussy, I see that there are times in the middle of the week where you don't have much business. Mm-hmm. And that the demand is really on the weekend when we have all our visitors and we have a lot of people that go out and drink and would like to go from one place to the other because they don't have cars here or they don't want to drive. Would you find your business still here in 2 years if you didn't have anything but the weekends that you actually were working? Because we would have, sounds to me like if we gave you a taxi franchise, we'd still have another, or not a franchise, but allowed you to perform taxi service here, we'd still have another taxi service. And so you both would be competing on the weekend, and maybe then the demand would probably be met, we think. But then during the middle of the week, what do you do? Do you think your business plan allows for you to survive?
Yes, I am very, very blessed to have, right now we're the top-rated taxi company in Rogers and Bentonville. I'm very, very blessed to have that we were looking at leaving 2 drivers here permanently that would be here throughout the week and work the weekends, and then I would be bringing drivers over from my Rogers and Bentonville division to work on the weekends when the demand was up, because you can't have 5 or 6 cars here all week because there isn't the need for it. But you come to that weekend just like Dixon Street in Fayetteville. You come to that weekend and you need those 5 or 6 cars. I'm very, very lucky that I have that backup asset and the backup team that I can bring down here, bring down those 3, those 4, those 5 drivers. Blues, we can bring down 10 if we need it. And I've got 19 cars. And I can bring down what we need to bring down, because for us over there, our busy time is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because we do primarily Walmart vendors. For us, the weekend is slow over there. So it's very, very simple for me to bring people over here to run on the weekends, to provide that need, to fill that necessity, and then during the week to have, there are 2 drivers that are based here run throughout the week.
So you would have 4 or 5 vehicles here
Yeah.
on a weekend. May I ask you, sir, David, how many vehicles do you have available on a weekend, let's say, and drivers sort of?
3.
3? So we would think that 8 would handle the demand.
Incredibly, and if there's
You know.
more, I guarantee if David and I each saw a need, that purchasing additional vehicles, at least for me, and getting more drivers would not be an issue. Because we started with 1 car in Rogers, and as we saw the need fill, have grown to where we are now. Same concept here.
Why don't you guys team up?
I have
LLC.
approached discussing buying out of the company, and the financial request was not feasible.
Shouldn't be.
I understand Councilman Purkeypile is an architect, but or an engineer. I'm sorry. But his scenario describes every business in Eureka Springs. We struggle during the week, and we make our profits on the weekends. So there's nothing unusual as far as businesses go. That's just the nature of Eureka Springs.
Mr. Mitchell?
Question for the attorney again, just so I understand franchise issues. When the city issues a franchise, should there actually be proven there is a franchise for this particular service or anything, is that franchise then able to be sold as some kind of a passed on by being sold by the holder of the franchise?
That would depend on the creation of the franchise by our ordinance. Some of them are can be sold. Some of them cannot. And it would go back to the actual enabling ordinance that creates it.
Ms. Zeller?
Okay, we don't, however, in order to have a taxi business in town, we simply need a business permit for a taxi business. We don't have to have a franchise.
Don't know that yet.
What
I
do you
don't
mean
think we
don't
know that.
How
Because
would
I
we
don't
not
think
know
until
it?
we figure out what ordinances are actually valid, we can actually say that. But
Okay.
the first step, whether or not there's a franchise, you still got to go through the process of getting the certificate.
Yeah, okay, I understand
So-
that. However, I remember reading a taxi franchise ordinance, and that was back when Barbara Harris was mayor, and that was my first time on the city council. And it was not written according to state law. It did not have all the qualifications that the state required of a franchise. And I didn't think anything of it because most of our laws weren't in accordance with the state, and it didn't seem to matter one way or the other. So there was at one time a franchise on the books. However, it never mentioned how many people could have that franchise. It was never put out to bid. And although it did insist that rates and things be posted, they never were. So I'm not sure even if we find this franchise, it's going to be what we need or what's in compliance with law. But anyhow, what I want to know is this establishing a need, that would be done at the public hearing. If people came forward and testified that there was a need, then that would be establishing a need and a necessity, right? That would fulfill the law?
You would have to make a finding of whether there was a need after the presentation of whatever material the applicant wants to make, and any responding, whether that be Mr. White or someone else who thinks they hold a franchise, which I don't know of any other claimants.
Okay, and what about testimony from local businesses and local persons who feel that we need another taxi business? Would that have any validity?
You
At a public
can
hearing?
accept that type of testimony. That's the purpose of a public hearing. He very well may want to line up 50 people that come in and tell you that on his behalf, and he may want to line up 50 people to come in and tell you, oh no, we're just fine the way it is.
Well,
And if they
judging
can't.
from the email I've been getting, I'll bet you there are 50 local people who would show up at a public hearing. But I wonder whether we want to include this in a in a regular meeting, do we want to schedule a public hearing outside of our regular meeting date? Because we just might end up with a crowd and it might end up taking a while. And can we do this within 20 days? We have both the taxi people here, so they're already being notified that there's a
We
public
would have to
hearing.
go to another location, I believe. We'd have to move the meeting to another location to accommodate
Upstairs.
100 people, yeah, if it's available, yeah. Mr. McClung?
I was on council when this came up before in 2005, 2006, whatever it was, and you know, it was hashed and thrashed, and you know, people were at odds, but you know, it's 6 years later, and there may be that ordinance. The codification was a big mess. Beverly was on council at that time. There was all kinds of things that were lost, that were not there. You know, it was blamed on the people that were doing the work for us. So there's companies that do that, but you know, if they don't get the information, they can't assimilate it. So, you know, going back doesn't do a bit of good. We got to go forward. So what I'd like to do is to call a question, if I can do that, so we can vote on the motion at hand and then proceed to set a public hearing.
Mr. Weaver, any
What our
further?
motion was.
To accept this as a business plan so we can go forward as his application.
Clerk, reread
You
it.
seconded
to be
it.
sure.
Yeah, I know, I couldn't remember.
Okay, hang on. We'll go back and we'll reread the motion and make sure we have a valid second, then we'll go ahead and process from there.
Mr. McClung made a motion to accept the pamphlet as the application. Ms. Schneider seconded.
Okay, no further discussion? We'll go for the
Then
vote.
call in the question.
Okay.
Right. We do have to vote on calling the
Okay.
question first.
All right, all in favor, call?
That one goes by roll call.
Yeah. We have to verify a second on the, Mickey seconded it,
Calling the question?
yes.
No.
No.
She seconded it. I don't think you have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Mr. Mitchell seconded it.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. Purkeypile?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Zeller?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider? Yes. Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Now the motion? Yes, sir.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
we'll read the motion from the records here.
Mr. McClung made a motion to accept the pamphlet as the application. Ms. Schneider seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Mr. McClung.
I'd like to make a motion that we set a public hearing for the issuing of another taxi operator's license or whatever it's going to be
Title.
termed. I'm not exactly sure what the correct terminology.
Can I ask the attorney a question about that first, please?
Well, why don't I make the motion and we get a second and then we can discuss
Because
it.
it pertains to that. All I
Second.
want to know is, can we have a special meeting
Second.
where we can vote on it after the public hearing? If we set a special date?
To vote on anything together, you'll have to have a special meeting unless
Right,
you
but
do it
that's what
here.
I'm saying. Can we make this public hearing a special meeting? So when we have the public hearing, we can discuss and vote.
You could have a public hearing followed by a special meeting.
That's what I
They
wanted to
wouldn't
know.
be the same, although you could adjourn one and go into the other.
That's what I want to know. Okay.
As long as you do the proper notice that you're having a special meeting.
Okay.
Can I finish my motion before
Now
we
you
get a
can.
second?
All right, without
Now
any
you can.
interruptions, let him finish it.
Thank
We need to
you.
get
I
on.
would like to make a motion that we set a public hearing for the first meeting in March and precede our regular council meeting with that meeting. If we can have it upstairs, fine. You know, location to be determined.
And
Second.
Mr. Mitchell's, okay. Mr. DeVito, second.
So you'd rather do it on our meeting day than a special day? Is what you're
Why
saying?
not? Get it
20
over with.
days versus 30?
Well, it's 20 days, isn't it?
You said 20 days and you're
It's
talking...
28 days. It'll be 28 days. This way it falls between February and March this year.
Mr. Weaver.
You probably need to give a written notification to your current holder of business, and that probably should go by
It requires
certain
that.
requirements.
It requires
So it's
that
gonna
in the
be-
state statute.
It's going to be more than 20 days
Okay.
She's trying to set it in 20 days. It won't work.
Okay, well, I'm going by your 20.
Okay. You're correct in wanting to put it out further. To the
First meeting in March.
Okay. All right, so we've got a motion and a second to make it the first meeting in March, special meeting and hearing.
No.
Well, no, we
regular
don't need a
meeting.
hearing. We can do that during the regular
Okay,
meeting.
all right.
Now, you may want to set a time on it.
5 o'clock?
Time limit?
A time to do it.
The
do it.
time to
Start
do
the
it
public hearing.
unless you're going to simply delay the starting the regular city.
5:30.
5.
I need a number.
Do we want a time limit?
No. To start it so that as many people would be coming so we can start our meeting close on time, our regular
But you do
meeting.
get a limit. If you started at 5, you limit it to an hour. This meeting starts at
No,
6.
no, we start closer to on time is what I'm saying.
Need a number.
And I'm open. You want to start at 4 o'clock and give them till 9? I don't care. Just whatever.
We're going to vote on it regardless of what
Well,
it
I
is.
mean,
so, yeah.
the motion is the motion. You need that to be
In the motion, we need a time. Yeah.
okay.
Are we in discussion?
I think
We
so.
are discussing.
Oh, I thought we were working on this motion.
Okay.
Well, why don't we just start at the same meeting time? That way everybody's used to that. And, if it takes a while, it'll take a while. There's nothing we can do about that.
1 hour for comments is good.
From
Uh,
6
you know-
o'clock to 7 will be the special meeting.
Yeah, 1
Okay.
hour.
It's a public.
Public hearing, my
Public
mistake.
hearing. Yeah.
Bad
Public
choice of
hearing.
words.
6 o'clock, okay.
Yeah, but you could have 2 people show up or 20.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
Not to
We
worry.
need to just set this thing and get on with the business here.
Okay. I guess I'll amend the motion if I can do that.
You can amend your own motion, yes.
Okay. I want to amend the motion that the starting time for that public hearing
Yes.
be at our regular meeting time of
6
6 p.m. and not to exceed 7 p.m.
And there's a second to that?
Second.
Okay. That is the new motion, new amended motion. Since we didn't vote on the first one, this is the motion. Is that correct, Mr. Weaver? Okay.
You're voting on the amendment. On the amendment.
Unless you want to withdraw your original motion.
You want me to withdraw your admission?
History. I don't even know what you're talking about.
Withdrawn.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, we're going to do this the right way so it'll all be up and running. Okay. So the amended motion in the second was never voted on. So it's not a valid motion. Is that correct, Mr. Weaver?
It would be valid until one of them withdraws their second or the original
I'll
motion.
withdraw my second
Okay.
from the original motion.
Okay.
Or no.
No, you didn't. Yeah, you
I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we call a timeout and to start over?
Now, we'll wade through this. This is a learning process for y'all. Okay. So the second is withdrawn on the original motion, so the original motion is now moot. It reverts to the amended motion to have the public hearing, and I got it right that time, from 6 o'clock and no longer than 7, and it was seconded by Mr. DeVito.
First meeting in March.
First meeting in March. Okay. Any other changes? Speak now, forever hold it. Let's do a roll call vote on this one, so we will know that we were all on the same page.
Mr. Purkeypile?
Yes.
Ms. Zeller?
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell?
Yes.
Mr. McClung?
Yes.
Mr. DeVito?
Yes.
Ms. Schneider?
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Okay. This minute, Mr. Weaver.
You probably need to assign the task of making the notice. I know that in a court of law, there would be a hard pressure to say that Mr. White did not know because he's sitting here in the room, and he's been here for the last 25 or 30 minutes while we debated this. but you still need to assign who's going to make the official notice.
Does that come from the mayor's office? Does that come from you?
It, in the past, can come from the other applicant, or it can come from the clerk typically.
I think it should come from this office.
Well, I think it protects the city better if it comes from the clerk.
So you're saying the clerk must write a letter to Mr.
So we
White
have
and
to, so we have
Mr.
to
Stussy?
inform her to do this?
Well, it's not within her normal duties at this point, unless you assign it to do it.
Okay. You got anything else? Okay, Mr. Purkeypile, you were up first.
I'd like to make a motion to direct the city clerk to provide a written notification of the public hearing just voted on to Mr. White,
Is there a
our
second?
current taxi
Okay.
service owner.
Okay.
What about newspapers?
I would
Maybe so.
suggest it also should be there, but it doesn't. I
We
wouldn't.
need to add newspapers.
Please.
Stuff's all done whenever a public hearing is done anyway.
Yeah, it is.
We're in discussion.
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that we should send it by certified letter, so should that be part of the motion that the clerk sends also to each of the companies certified?
She should be able to pick out the rules of notification.
How to do
There
it?
was no discussion of certified letter.
Anything else? Okay, we got a motion and a second. Have the clerk write the letter of notification. Are there any other discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And who was the second on Mr. Purkeypile's motion, please?
Right here.
Mr. McClung.
Thank you.
Anything else?
May I say something?
Yes.
When you folks are going through this process, when you speak over one another, when you interrupt one another, it makes it very difficult to understand exactly what, for example, a motion is. So if you could please not talk over one another, then fewer mistakes would be made. Thank you.
Anybody else?
I just have
Yes,
a
ma'am.
question.
What's that?
Only one person gets notified, not both?
It's just as easy to send two letters as it is one.
I'm asking-
Whatever the state law requires.
On the public thingy.
Mr. Purkeypile.
State law says you notify the current taxi cab
Thank you.
operator.
Okay. That's what I'm asking.
Okay.
That's what I quoted earlier.
Okay. Anything else? Mr. Stussy, do you have
Thank-
anything to say regarding
No, I know
current
this is
situation?
this has been. We went through this whole try to find the taxi stuff a year ago at the limo workshops and the taxi workshops. We're beating a dead horse. I hate to say it that way. I know we have to follow protocol appropriately, but I really don't want to parade all these people back in front of you again. I don't want to have to ask them all to email you guys again stating the needs that they've discovered. So I'm hoping at this point, honestly, that the case has been stated, because I don't want to waste any more of your time going through all of this again in 2 weeks or in 4 weeks.
It's all a matter of public record now.
Yeah.
So, yes, sir.
Well, unfortunately, the public hearing, you're going to have to do that.
That's what I wasn't sure. Would
State
this be in public record? Would it be?
This is not the public hearing.
Okay. Yeah,
There's
but
not been
public
due
record.
notification to the public or to the current operator.
Okay.
So at the public hearing, you're going to have to restate your case, bring this all forward, and then we can.
Oh, I have
make
no
our
problems
decision.
restating my case. It was bringing everybody in front of you guys again who stated it, resending all those emails, having them come back up. I'm hoping at that point that the case has at least been stated, and then I can represent my actual proposal at that meeting.
If there is a court hearing, we cannot tell you at this table, I cannot tell you, they can't tell you, how to try your
Case.
presentation, or how to tell Mr. White to try his, or present his. But if there is a hearing later in a court of law, the court is going to center on what happens at that public hearing.
Hearing? Okay, perfect.
Okay. Move on.
Thank
Thank you,
guys.
sir. All right, this brings us to number 1 under unfinished business is ordinance number 2172. The state approved. It'll be the second read. Oh, sorry, city approved. It'll be the second read. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Floor is open. Mr. DeVito.
I move to suspend the rules and place ordinance number 2172 on its second reading by title only.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
It's
We'll get a roll call, okay.
We don't get to discuss?
You will calm down.
Yeah.
Oh, am I premature?
Yes.
Sorry about that. That's where my hair went to.
Okay.
Assemble that,
Mr. DeVito,
Yes.
Ms. Schneider,
Yes.
Ms. Zeller,
Yeah.
Mr. McClung,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. Purkeypile,
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Now, I believe we can have a little discussion.
Well,
Yes.
actually, no.
That's right, we got to go ahead and read it. I'm sorry.
There it is.
Yeah, I got one.
Ordinance
Okay.
number 2172, an ordinance amending the Eureka Springs Municipal Code, subsection 4.48.01D.
Mr. DeVito.
I move to approve ordinance number 2172 on its second reading.
Second.
Any seconded? All in favor, say aye.
Oh,
Aye.
discussion.
Okay, now discussion. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure that that she is really happy with, and the planning commission is happy with the way that's worded on D. I'm sure that's what you wanted to read. Okay, and then I'm tickled pink.
Any other? Okay. Now, all in favor, say aye.
Right?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to number 2. This will be the, okay, yes, so we'll postpone this one for February the 25th meeting. For the purpose of the record, it's the Department Commission 2013 priorities. Moves us on to number 3, discussion of town hall meeting, the following priorities review. Motion to discuss.
Move to discuss.
A second?
Second.
Okay. It's on the agenda, so we need to either
This,
postpone it or,
just a brief statement, we'll just
Okay.
hit it here
Go
real
ahead.
quick. This was something that Mr. DeVito had brought up in the past when we had that meet and greet, which was an excellent idea. It makes total sense to follow after we receive the department and commission's 2013 priorities list in February. We get a chance to look at it. It's a great opportunity to have a town hall meeting and allow the citizens to take a look at those priorities that were identified and to help us potentially with some input into prioritizing. So it makes a much more complete picture and allows a lot more participation in this process.
thank you, sir. Any further? If not, that moves us on to number 4, be ordinance 2173 to be the second reading.
I make a motion that we read by title only, ordinance number 2173 for its second reading.
Second.
Suspend the rule.
Suspend the
Suspend
rules.
the rules.
Second.
Okay. On suspension, we need a roll call. So stand by.
Ms. Schneider,
Yes.
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes.
Mr. McClung,
Yes.
Mr. DeVito,
Yes.
Mr. Purkeypile,
Yes.
Ms. Zeller,
Yes.
6-0. Ordinance number 2173, an ordinance to amend Chapter 8 of the City of Eureka Springs Municipal Code.
Mr. DeVito.
Move to approve ordinance 2173 on its second reading.
A second? Is that Mr. Purkeypile?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. All in discussion? Yes, sir.
Just reminding everyone that to be aware that we changed it, I believe, to 3 hours. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so that's it. That's all.
Thank you, sir.
I have
Yes, ma'am.
something. I noticed on the list of fines here that there is no fine for parking in a red zone. Was that omitted? Somebody just forgot it, or we're not going to fine anybody for that anymore, or what? The fine for parking in a red zone at the moment is $25, but it's not listed here. I just happened to notice it because I got a ticket once.
Any other parking violation not covered in this chapter is $20. I think it's number 2.
Well,
Is a red zone
Okay,
considered a no
but-
parking zone?
yes, a red zone is considered a no parking zone, and the fine up until this point has been $25. So, are we lowering it to $20 then, or I think we just need to add it. Parking in a red zone.
Okay, that would be a no parking zone. No parking zone or a strap zone.
Well, we have a fine for parking in a yellow zone. Okay, $20. But we also have, up until this point, been fining people for parking in a red zone.
Okay, if y'all want to add it, you can add it. That's not an issue.
I think we should add it.
I think it makes it more
I need
clear
that
if we
in the
add it.
motion. Need that in the motion.
Motion it.
I'd like to make a motion that under Section 2C, we add parking in a red zone. The fine will be $25.
I'll second.
Discussion, Mr. Purkeypile?
Oh, I think Diane has something to contribute.
Diane? Yes, ma'am?
Isn't parking within 15 feet of the fire hydrant, isn't that painted red? Isn't that the red zones?
Most of them are.
So, because like the loading zone violation, it doesn't say yellow parking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but not all red zones are by fire
Or
hydrants.
they're not. They're not 15 feet. Okay.
You might want to make your motion to switch numbers 10 and 11.
Well, I don't know. We should make that number 10 or number 11.
Make it whichever one you want to make it. I'm just saying it's...
Number 10 is the wrap up, so to speak. So those should switch.
Yeah, it would make more sense if the red zone were number 10 and then number 10 became
11.
number 11.
This is just for... They're not categorized in this motion. This is just the way they're listed on the ordinance. So it doesn't...
Oh,
You can go either way.
it isn't going to be written this way?
I'm not sure it's in this order. Okay. Mr. McClung, you had a question?
A simple way to take care of that might be just to include the word red in number 2 and increase that to 25.
You can do that one too.
No parking or red zone, is that what you mean?
No parking, red zone.
It's two different things.
If they leave it no parking, that covers everything. That's no parking.
No parking or red zone.
There's a motion.
What other no parking zones are there? There's handicapped, no parking. What else?
It's covered.
Handicap's covered.
Okay.
all it is.
Okay.
Okay.
So
we're-
where are we?
Mr. McClung made a motion. Well, Ms. Zeller made a motion first.
And I seconded
Yeah,
that.
I just made a suggestion.
Okay. But it sounded a lot like a
It would-
motion.
Well, it would certainly simplify it.
Okay. All right, so we deal with the first one first, unless they withdraw. Okay. So number 11 will be a red zone violation of $25. Is that correct? Ms. Zeller? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, and there was a second?
It was me.
Next second. So any further discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
5-1. Okay. So it is. Okay. That one is, so to vote on this last read, since it's been amended now, do we have to reread it as amended? Okay. Okay.
Make a motion that we take a 10-minute break, please.
Please stop.
You should
I
finish
thought we
it.
were done.
You should finish this item first.
Yeah.
Okay.
You've not approved its second reading
And,
as
and
amended.
I'll cover that.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh, sorry about that.
Okay.
You need a motion on that?
You have a motion to approve it on the second reading, and you've amended it properly, so now you need to take a vote.
So the vote that was taken previously was to amend it.
Okay.
Now we are voting
It is
on the
not
amended
amended.
motion.
On the ordinance as amended.
Ordinance as amended, thank you.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you.
Now you're through with it.
Okay, I
Okay.
make a motion, we take a 10-minute break. I didn't
Is there a
get to
second?
do that last
Second.
time.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
We'll be back in session. We're now entering agenda item new business. Number one is outdoor sales. Motion to discuss.
So
Second.
Floor is open.
I'd like to ask
Beverly's
Beverly
here.
to go to the mic. This was hers.
Okay, the reason that planning brought this to you is I gave you ordinance 1020, and it was written in 1977, and it was very strict, and it had rules in there about the chief of police had to sign off, the city clerk had to sign off. But I want you to know that when that was written in 1977, the police and the clerk were in the same office building. And so then an ordinance 1822, it also in 1977, that ordinance only allowed for 2 outdoor sales per year. Then we had ordinance 1822, which was passed in 1999, and it was it was less restrictive, and it did not require the police chief to sign off on anything. And then you have what's in your code book today. And so we gave you a list of 8 things that planning saw that we think need to be added into the code book, that need to be put in ordinance form. But I put it in a list because when you give it to your city attorney to put in ordinance form, you need to be in agreement of what needs to go in that. Otherwise, you're going to get this big, long ordinance at your table, and you're going to have to amend it to what you don't agree with. So if we could just go over those things real quick. Number 1 and 2 are very simple because there's a big, long section in Ordinance 1020 that tells you the whole purpose of the section, the whole purpose of the ordinance. That's just missing from the code book. Now, I know you heard the city attorney say it's still law, but this is the only way I know to get it back into our code book right now. So whether he tells you that has to be done or it doesn't, I'd like to just see an ordinance put that back in. Number 3, the words, like in the definition of outdoor sales, it has the words in it that an outdoor sale, and it says which are of a duration of not more than 3 consecutive calendar days. That should be removed from the definition of an outdoor sale, because if it's 4 days, what does that make it? Not a sale? So, I mean, you shouldn't set the days in the definition of an outdoor sale. We had a lawyer, a past lawyer on the planning commission, and he said that just didn't make sense to him, that we need to take those words out of there. We have it in another part of the code that says you can only have it for 3 consecutive days when it talks about giving the permit. So it shouldn't just be in the definition. Number 4, we're not sure about this one, so we'll have to get your help. We would like to see language added that the city clerk would forward a copy of the permits issued to the police department. Now, back in the first ordinance, the police chief and the city clerk had to sign them, so they both knew about it. The chief of police tells me that when somebody has a sale, they get a lot of calls saying, do they have a permit? Well, he doesn't know unless he sends somebody there to find out if they have a permit. So we would like for this information to get to him without him having to send officers there. But I was also told that we can't tell the city clerk what her job is or isn't. We can't add or take away from that. So I'm not sure how to get this done. I mean, I would like for the chief to be notified when a permit is issued, but I don't know exactly how to do that. So you might have to get legal advice. Number 4, we would like this part changed to say no person or organization shall hold such sale regulated under this article at one specific address more than 3 times in a calendar year. The very first time in 1977, when the first one was written, everybody had garage sales in their garages or yard sales in their yards. And so it was done by name, but it was for their house. Now, people have those sales, those rummage sales or yard sales, but it's not necessarily at their homes anymore because the times have changed. So we would like to see it regulated by address instead of by name, because you could have one address and 5 different people get a permit for that address, and then you could have 15 sales in one location. So we would just like to see this changed. And then there's never been anything in our code for the actual sale times, and even our planning commission could not decide on this one. It's number 6. We would like to see that the actual sale times would not begin before 7 a.m. and ending no later than 7 p.m. But some on our commission wanted it to say dawn until dusk. So I don't know if that's giving you a 6 a.m. and a 9 p.m. in the summer. I don't know. So that's something that we left to you because I couldn't get a unanimous. And then also in our code, we don't have anything about setup times and removal times. So really and truly, somebody could set up their garage sale 2 weeks before the actual sale date, leave it out in their yard, and then have their actual sale for 3 days and then not take it down for another 2 or 3 weeks. They could, according to our code. We don't have anything like that. As long as they're not out there selling, it could just be left out there. And then some on our commission wanted to add number 8, which would be a variance section in a case a person really had a legitimate need and they needed to have one more sale. But I'm here to tell you that already in our code it's 3 times a year, plus yards and yards of yard sales, they don't have to get this kind of permit. That goes under a special event permit. So that's 4 times a year. In 1977, it was 2. To date, it's 3. And really, it's 4. So I don't really know if you need 8, but, on my commission, if there was this little old lady that was moving and she really had a lot of stuff to sell, she might need 1 more sale. So that's why the variance part is in there. So really, I would like for you to send this to the city attorney to be put in ordinance form, but I would like for you to agree on what to send so that he could have the best information.
Questions? Schneider.
On the number 7 for the putting up and tearing down, was it not suggested that you can start putting up at noon the day before, and you must have it torn down by noon the day after?
That's what it says on number 7.
Okay. Well, you didn't verbally.
I'm sorry.
Purkeypile.
This issue is pretty close to home, so to speak. And actually had an event that was set up 2 weeks in advance. Was quite a spectacle for some period of time, and stayed up for another 10 days afterwards, a week. So I think all these issues, Beverly, are issues that we need to address. And I like pretty much all these items here. I don't know where we need to take it from this table. Do we need to, take it to legal?
Well, we do have a couple of things that need to be decided at your table. One, Mr. Weaver will have to help you with about if we added that the city clerk could forward a copy to the permits that she issues to the police department. Can we do that legally?
If the clerk will accept that, you can. If she won't, or he won't, typically what you could require is that the permit holder, the one receiving the permit, is required to send a copy of it or take a copy of it to the police department dispatch. Then that puts the person asking for the permit. They have to take a copy of it.
And your next thing?
And the next thing is number 6, your planning commission couldn't decide if it would be 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. or from dawn till dusk.
Mr. McClung.
7 a.m. is probably early enough. Dawn can be a whole lot earlier than that. Dusk is probably all right.
Yes, sir.
I kind of like the 12-hour day. I mean, 7 to 7 sounds fine to me. It also kind of tags in the 7 a.m. tags with the noise ordinance, which says you can't really start anything before 7, like construction activity and such. So I like that, but the evening is, I think I agree with Terry. I could go with either, but I prefer 7 to 7.
Mr. Mitchell.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion on this, that we ask the city attorney to draft a motion based on the input from the chair of planning as presented to council.
Second.
Okay. I think Mr. Mitchell said motion.
And that's why I said second,
Yeah.
right?
Draft an ordinance.
Yeah. It'd be
Oh,
an
draft an
ordinance.
ordinance. Did I do it
To
now?
change city code, yeah. So I just want to make sure I heard you right, so. Okay.
I may not have said it right. I
We
don't know.
got you
Somebody
covered
get
here.
me on the right
We got you
track here.
covered here. All right. Okay, there's a motion made and seconded. Any further discussion on it?
Was that to do an ordinance for the attorney to do an ordinance?
Yes.
Okay.
With these changes. Mr. McClung.
Yeah, I would like to have it changed to where it's number 6, 7 a.m. to dusk. They actually published what dusk is.
They publish sunset.
Or sunset. They publish sunset.
Which is what, 9 p.m. in the middle
No,
of the summer?
sunsets
It varies.
could be anything. Every day's different.
Yeah, I know, but it can be as late as 9, can it?
Yes, it can be later than 9.
I think in this part of the country, I think it's 9:22 it gets to. But I have to look.
Ms. Schneider?
To keep things simple and easy for everyone all year long, 12 months of the year, I would propose 7 to 7. Keeping in mind, if you have a neighbor having a yard sale, you really don't want people out there at 9 o'clock at night. And also considering most people, except for the huge yard sale thing that the city does, most people are pretty much done and doing dinner and entertainment at night, and it just makes it simpler. 12 hours, 7 to 7.
Okay. We have a variance here.
That's what it's on here.
Yeah.
Not too many people have yard sales. Excuse me, Mayor.
ahead.
Not too many people have yard sales in the middle of winter, but Mr. McClung's proposal would actually shut them down sooner because sunset is a lot earlier than 7. You're going to have them out there potentially in January after dark. I don't know. It would probably be easier from enforcement if it went from specific hour to specific hour, but
Schneider?
I forgot to ask. If we say, let's say, 7 to 7, does that mean they have to be open at those times, or can they open later or close sooner?
they can
Just
open and
says
close.
sale times be limited to.
Okay.
They can
So that
open
was
at noon and close
Not
at
before
12:01.
7 and
Okay.
no later than 7.
Okay.
Okay. So, Mr. Mitchell, your motion,
Oh, yes.
yes, Mr. Mitchell's motion.
That's the city attorney to draft an ordinance based on these recommendations.
Okay. So until we actually decide in this, he can't make that decision. I mean, Mr. Weaver can't write the ordinance until you get this defined. Okay.
Great.
They haven't changed it.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Mr. Weaver, it's in your hands.
Listen to-
Okay, next on the agenda is discussion of utility lines. Motion to discuss.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Floor is open.
I would ask Beverly to speak again, please.
Okay, we brought this to you because in our master plan, in the appendix, one of the things that it says is that the relocation of overhead utilities to below ground in the historic district and commercial neighborhoods, that is costly, costly, costly. I don't know of any way that that's going to really happen, probably in my lifetime. They say it's $1 million a mile, and the utility company said, if you want to pay us, we'll be glad to do that. But our town has a lot of infrastructure issues. It has, dam issues. I didn't say dam issues, I said dam issues. And it has, a lot of other things that if we got a windfall of money that could be, before that list. So what we propose is that on new construction, that they would have their utility lines placed underground unless they can demonstrate an extreme terrain hardship. And if they did demonstrate an extreme terrain hardship, then above ground utility lines must be located at the rear of the property line wherever practical. And so this would not get rid of the utility lines that we have now, but it would stop more from going up on private property. And we had the utility companies come and speak to us, and what they told us was that they put in the utility lines least forgot what the words were, but it was like whatever's the most cost effective. Like the new school, their utility lines are buried already, that they didn't put up any poles. They buried them because that was the least expensive cost to them, so it didn't cost the school anything extra to have their lines buried. But if there's already standing poles, and that it might cost the one that's doing the new construction more money because they'd have to dig a trench and they have to buy a little bit of cable from the pole to their business. And so if somebody's going to do a brand new construction, it's a relatively small amount, but he did say it could be $1,000 to $2,000 depending on where it is and what it's doing. And we weighed this, and we didn't want to stop any construction or stifle anything or put a hardship on anybody just for looks. But the utility company said it really is, if more people could do this, then it would be more beneficial to them in the long run. And our master plan also talks about it, and we just thought it was something good to do. The utility company told me that Lowell has a great ordinance that does this. I couldn't get my hands on their actual ordinance. I just have their code, and this pretty much is what it says, what I gave to y'all, what we're proposing from planning.
Mr. McClung.
Citywide, residential, commercial, both. And I can't say what the policy is now, but past policy for the utility companies were that, that they'll take it to where the meter sets, because the meter doesn't necessarily set on the property line. So they provide service to the meter. But they, to bury it, it used to be you could, if you dug the ditch and paid for the conduit, they provided the cable. I guess that's the way it still is.
They get it to your building, and this is what they said to me, the path of least resistance. So they'll bring it into your building on an overhead line and not charge you anything if that's the path of least resistance. But if you want it underground and it's cheaper for them to do it overhead, then you do have to pay for the conduit and the digging. That's the difference.
And that is to the meter location. Anything beyond that, if necessary, is completely on the customer.
And I looked at all our new construction lately. The cabins and cottages behind Amish Collection, they buried all their utility lines and they paid extra. The subway, they buried their utility lines. I built a workshop, I buried the utility line. So it's not something that people are opposed to, I don't think. But like I said, to make that mandatory, we had to weigh it and listen to everybody's opinions, and we still believe this is the best thing.
Well, there's a cost savings to burying your utilities when you have a 3-inch ice storm, and you're not having to replace your weatherhead and your line to your house. So the cost of burying the utilities is not the only factor to consider.
Ms. Schneider.
Basically, we were looking at two different things on this issue. This being a tree city, any storm causes power outages and line problems. If they're buried, you have less of that. Because we as the city can't afford to just decide we're going to bury everything underground. We thought at least beginning like this would help us. It would give us a start, so that eventually, as work is done hither or yon, we can tie in underground with overhead, and eventually get everything, or as much as possible, underground, considering the rocky terrain. But the trees and the storms, it's unbelievable. And like I said, so this was a beginning to finally getting the whole town pretty much power safe.
Is this going to address any tree issues for anything that's killed or damaged while they're put underground?
I don't think we talked about, because these go right by the right-of-way, and so trees shouldn't be involved.
Because around here being Tree City, there's bound to be a chance that's going to happen sooner or
Yeah.
later.
I don't think we got to that part, did we, Carol?
It's not about the utility lines that we have up now bearing them. That's not what we're talking about. This is just new construction.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And they have to
New
put the
construction.
line to the building somehow. And we're
Okay.
talking about a trench.
Okay. Mr. Purkeypile.
Well, I guess I have probably one of the newer buildings constructed here, and that's what we did. We had to get the power across the street, so there was a pole there. We had to buy an extra lot, and we got an easement. I gave an easement to SWEPCO. They buried it to the back of my house where I have my service panel. So, but we happened to be in a situation where that was fill, and so they could bury it 24 inches, 28, 36, whatever it is, 18, I think, maybe. I think it's a good idea for all new construction, and I don't know how much new construction we have going on, but apparently there's enough.